Did you know that something millions of people take daily, especially after age 55, might be quietly accelerating memory loss? It's not just about genetics or getting older. What if one of the most common habits in your daily routine is silently working against your brain's ability to remember, focus, and think clearly? And what if stopping it could actually help protect your mind, starting today? In the next few minutes, we're diving deep into the science, the warning signs, and, most importantly, what you can do right now to protect your memory. Stick with me, because what you'll hear today could change the way you age forever. Before we get into it, take a second and hit that subscribe button if you're into real, science-backed ways to protect your health and sharpen your mind. You're not going to want to miss what's coming next. Let's start with something that feels innocent, a little daily treat. Or maybe it's not a treat, it's a habit. One that starts with a cup of coffee and ends with a fizzy drink or a colorful yogurt or that healthy-looking breakfast bar. But what if I told you that this daily intake of added sugar, isn't just about weight gain or blood? Sugar spikes? What if it's tied directly to how fast your brain ages? The connection between sugar and memory loss is no longer a theory. It's science. Multiple studies have now shown a direct link between high blood sugar and a shrinking brain. Yes, shrinking. But before we panic, we need to understand exactly how this happens. Because once you know that, it's possible to make small changes that can protect your brain, not just slow memory loss, but potentially reverse some of the early signs. So what's going on? Imagine your brain like a high-performance engine. It needs fuel, steady, clean energy to function. The primary fuel source it uses is glucose, the sugar circulating in your blood. But, and this is crucial, it only wants it in just the right amount. Too much sugar, especially in the form of added sugars or refined carbs, and your engine starts sputtering, not because there's not enough fuel, but because the fuel becomes toxic. Your brain is incredibly sensitive to blood sugar fluctuations. When you eat high-sugar foods, especially those with no fiber or protein to slow them down, your blood sugar spikes. Your body responds by releasing insulin, trying to shove all that excess sugar out of your bloodstream. Over time, this constant sugar-insulin roller coaster makes your cells less responsive. That's insulin resistance. And it doesn't just affect your waistline, it affects your brain. In fact, researchers now call Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes. That's how deep the sugar-brain connection goes. Studies have shown that insulin resistance in the brain impairs memory, slows cognitive processing, and damages neurons. And the scariest part? This can begin long before you ever forget a birthday or where you put your keys. So what are the subtle signs that sugar may be affecting your brain? Have you ever walked into a room and completely forgotten why? Struggled to remember a word that's right on the tip of your tongue? Or found it harder to stay focused on a task you used to do without thinking? These aren't just senior moments. They can be early warning signs that your brain is struggling under the weight of too much sugar. And it's not just about cookies and cake. Sugar hides in places most people never expect. Granola bars, flavored yogurts, salad dressings, pasta sauces, even so-called health drinks. The average American consumes over 17 teaspoons of added sugar per day. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 6 teaspoons for women and 9 for men. So we're eating almost double without even realizing it. Here's where things get interesting. The hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory and learning, is one of the first areas to be affected by high sugar intake. MRI scans show that people with high blood sugar, even if they're not diabetic, tend to have smaller hippocampi. And the smaller the hippocampus, the more likely memory problems become. But sugar doesn't just shrink the brain, it inflames it. That's right. Excess sugar contributes to chronic, low-grade inflammation, a condition where your immune system stays activated even when there's no threat. And in the brain, that's a big deal. Inflammatory molecules like cytokines interfere with communication between neurons. They dull your ability to think clearly and respond quickly. It's like trying to have a conversation through thick static. And if that weren't enough, sugar also increases oxidative stress. Every cell in your body, including those in your brain, is constantly exposed to molecules called free radicals. In small amounts, they're normal, but sugar boosts their production beyond what your natural defenses can handle. This oxidative stress damages the mitochondria, the tiny powerhouses in your brain cells that create energy. When those mitochondria break down, your brain slows down. Now, let's pause here, because all of this sounds terrifying, right? But here's the good news, and I promise, this part matters more than anything we've talked about so far. You can change this. Your brain is one of the most adaptable organs in your body. It can heal, it can rewire, it can grow new cells, a process called neurogenesis, even into old age. But it needs the right environment. And the first, most powerful step to create that environment is to reduce added sugar. And the changes start fast. Within just a few days of cutting added sugar, people report clearer thinking, better focus, and improved mood. After 2 weeks, insulin sensitivity starts improving. In a month, inflammation markers drop. Over time, brain fog lifts, memory sharpens, and even sleep quality improves. So if cutting sugar is the first step, what's the next? You replace it with foods that feed, not fight, your brain. Healthy fats like omega-3s found in fish, flax seeds, and walnuts help rebuild the fatty coating around brain cells, improving their ability to communicate. Leafy greens like spinach and kale deliver folate and vitamin K, both linked to slower cognitive decline. Berries, especially blueberries, are packed with antioxidants that neutralize the damage sugar leaves behind. And perhaps most importantly, fiber. Why fiber? Because fiber slows the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream, prevents those dramatic insulin spikes, and feeds the good bacteria in your gut. And yes, your gut and your brain are deeply connected. That's why people with high sugar diets often report more anxiety, depression, and mood swings. It's not just in your head, it's in your microbiome. Now, you might be wondering, is it too late? What if I've spent decades eating sugary foods? The answer is no, it's not too late. Studies have shown that even older adults who cut sugar and adopt a more balanced diet experience improvements in memory and cognitive function within months. Your brain wants to heal. You just have to give it the chance. Let me tell you about a 67-year-old woman named Carol. She wasn't overweight, exercised regularly, but still noticed her memory slipping. Simple things: forgetting appointments, misplacing items, struggling to find the right words. Her doctor ran tests. No dementia, but clear signs of insulin resistance and elevated blood sugar. Her doctor suggested cutting added sugar. Carol thought she didn't eat much, but when they tracked it, she was consuming nearly 20 teaspoons a day, mostly from flavored coffee creamers, crackers, and low-fat yogurts. She committed to making changes. Within 6 weeks, Carol reported sharper focus and fewer memory lapses. 3 months later, her fasting blood sugar dropped. Her brain felt awake again. That's the power of awareness and action. But here's something else to consider. Memory loss isn't just about sugar. It's about the habits that surround it. Poor sleep, lack of movement, chronic stress, all of these amplify the effects of sugar on the brain. Sleep is when your brain detoxes. Literally, your glymphatic system, yes, glymphatic with a G, flushes out waste products and toxins while you sleep. If you're eating high sugar and not sleeping well, your brain is overloaded with trash it can't take out. That leads to more inflammation and more memory issues. Movement, especially aerobic exercise like walking, dancing, or cycling, increases blood flow to the brain and stimulates the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, a protein that encourages the growth of new neurons. And stress? Chronic stress floods your body with cortisol. High cortisol shrinks the hippocampus and damages memory over time. So reducing sugar helps reduce cortisol too, and breaking the cycle starts to repair your brain. If you're over 50, and your joints ache when you get out of bed, go upstairs, or just try to enjoy a walk. It's not your age, and it's not your fault. The real issue? Your body's running out of a natural substance that cushions your joints like a shock absorber. And most supplements out there, glucosamine, collagen, all of it, don't fix this. But now, researchers have discovered a breakthrough that can actually restore what your joints are missing, and people in their 60s, 70s, even 80s are seeing real relief. If you're feeling stiff, sore, or weaker lately? Stop guessing. Check the link in the pinned comment now. Let's keep going. Now that you understand how deeply sugar can impact your brain and memory, especially after 55, let's go deeper into what you can actually do to protect yourself. Because while sugar is a major player in memory decline, it's not acting alone. It's part of a larger pattern, and once we understand the pattern, we can break it and rebuild something better. So let's talk about the typical day for someone over 55 who isn't aware of how diet affects their brain. Maybe it starts with a cup of coffee sweetened with flavored creamer, followed by a quick breakfast of cereal, toast, or maybe a muffin. A few hours later, they feel that energy crash, that mid-morning fog, so they reach for a snack. Crackers, a granola bar, maybe even a healthy smoothie. Lunch might look like a sandwich or a salad drenched in sweet dressing. Dinner is pasta or rice, with a glass of wine or juice, maybe even dessert. All of it seems normal. None of it feels extreme. But here's the issue. That's not one sugar hit. That's a continuous stream of glucose flooding the system every couple of hours. And when your blood sugar is constantly elevated, your insulin never gets a break. And when insulin is constantly working overtime, your cells stop listening. They become resistant. That's when damage begins, not just to your metabolism, but to your brain. And now let's layer on the second silent memory killer, inflammation. We've already touched on how sugar causes chronic inflammation. But did you know that inflammation affects the very structure of your brain? Neuroinflammation, as it's called, disrupts the connections between neurons. It slows communication. It damages protective coatings called myelin, and over time it leads to cell death. It's like trying to run software on a damaged hard drive. Everything slows down. Crashes become more frequent and eventually important. Files, like your memories, start to disappear. Now, imagine reversing that. Imagine a brain that fires clearly, where thoughts come quickly, where names and memories rise to the surface with ease. That's not just possible. It's predictable, because inflammation is responsive. Lower your sugar, improve your gut health, support your mitochondria, and inflammation goes down. And speaking of mitochondria, these tiny power plants are vital. Your brain burns through more energy than any other organ, and your mitochondria are what supply it. But here's what most people don't know. Sugar can damage mitochondria. It leads to oxidative stress, the release of free radicals, and eventually mitochondrial dysfunction. When your mitochondria suffer, your brain suffers. Fatigue, brain fog, slower thinking, all signs your brain isn't getting the power it needs. So what do? You feed your mitochondria. Not with sugar, but with nutrients. B vitamins like B1, B6, B12, and folate. Magnesium, CoQ10, healthy fats. These are like premium fuel. And when you reduce sugar, your cells stop fighting fires and start rebuilding. And here's another piece of the puzzle most people don't talk about: your gut. We now know there's a direct line of communication between your gut and your brain. It's called the gut-brain axis. And the bacteria living in your intestines produce chemicals that directly affect mood, memory, and cognition. Some bacteria produce GABA, serotonin, and dopamine, neurotransmitters that regulate how you feel and think. But sugar? Sugar feeds the wrong bacteria, the ones that create toxins, produce inflammation, and weaken the gut lining. That leads to something called leaky gut, a condition where particles that should stay inside your digestive tract leak into your bloodstream, triggering even more inflammation. And that inflammation, it travels to the brain. So by reducing sugar, you're not just helping your blood sugar, you're rebalancing your entire gut ecosystem, calming inflammation, and allowing your brain to work the way it was designed to. Now let's talk about a nutrient most people are unknowingly deficient in, but is critical for brain health: omega-3 fatty acids. These are found in fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel. But if you're not eating these foods several times a week or taking a high-quality supplement, you're probably not getting enough. And why does that matter? Because your brain is literally made of fat. Around 60% of its dry weight is fat. And omega-3s, especially DHA, are a major structural component. They help maintain the integrity of brain cells, reduce inflammation, and even promote new brain cell growth. One long-term study showed that people with higher omega-3 levels had larger brain volumes and performed better on memory tests than those with low levels. Another showed that those with the highest intake had a 60% lower risk of Alzheimer's. But sugar and processed foods displace omega-3s in your diet. They also increase the need for omega-3s by causing inflammation. So it's a double hit. You get less of what your brain needs and more of what destroys it. And now, let's tie this together with one more often overlooked factor: blood flow. Your brain needs a constant supply of oxygen and nutrients, but high blood sugar damages the delicate inner lining of blood vessels, called the endothelium. Over time, this leads to stiff, narrowed arteries, reducing blood flow to the brain. That means fewer nutrients, less oxygen, and impaired function. It's one reason why people with diabetes have a significantly higher risk of dementia. Not just Alzheimer's, but also vascular dementia, which is directly tied to impaired circulation. So how do we fix this? Exercise is one answer. Just 30 minutes of walking a day improves blood flow, reduces inflammation, boosts BDNF, and enhances neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to adapt and grow. But there's something else. Something you can start today. It's mindfulness. Chronic stress elevates cortisol, and cortisol in high levels damages the hippocampus. Remember, this is the memory center of the brain. Stress also triggers cravings, poor sleep, and emotional eating, usually of sugary foods, which means stress and sugar often go hand in hand, forming a vicious cycle. But deep breathing, meditation, time in nature, these simple practices reduce cortisol, protect your memory, and create the emotional space to make better food choices. Now let's revisit something important. We've talked a lot about sugar, how it shrinks the brain, triggers inflammation, disrupts the gut, and damages mitochondria. But what about those who say, well, I don't eat desserts or drink soda, so I'm fine? Here's the trap. Sugar hides in everything. Ketchup, whole wheat bread, store-bought soups, low-fat yogurts, protein bars, smoothies. The food industry knows that sugar makes everything taste better and keeps you coming back. So what you need is awareness. Start reading labels. Look for ingredients like cane sugar, corn syrup, rice syrup, fructose, glucose, dextrose, sucrose. If it ends in ose, it's sugar. And remember this number, 24 grams. That's about 6 teaspoons. That's the maximum added sugar recommended per day for women. 9 teaspoons for men. Most Americans double or triple that without realizing it. Now imagine cutting that number in half. Imagine how your brain might feel in 1 week, 2 weeks, a month. Imagine waking up feeling clear, focused, energized. Imagine remembering conversations, names, ideas with ease. This isn't fantasy. This is biology, and it's available to you. So what can you do today? Start small. Swap your sugary yogurt for plain Greek yogurt with berries. Ditch the cereal for eggs and avocado. Replace juice with water and lemon. Choose whole foods, foods without labels. And above all, keep going. This is about more than memory. It's about living with clarity, independence, and joy. It's about holding on to your stories, your relationships, your sense of self. It's about giving your brain the love and respect it deserves. You've got this. If this video made you think differently about your health, and you want to know what else could be silently sabotaging your mind, tap the video right here on the screen, because this next one, it's just as surprising and just as important.